Good afternoon, bon après-midi tout le monde. Today, the federal, provincial, and territorial ministers most responsible for early learning and childcare met to discuss shared priorities in early learning and childcare. The Minister of Families, Children, and Social Development, the Honorable Karina Gould, along with the Honorable Natalie Jameson, the Minister of Education and Early Years, and for the Status of Women in Prince Edward Island, co-chair the meeting and will deliver remarks before taking questions. Please note that simultaneous interpretation is available. You can click on the globe at the bottom of your screen to access the language of your choice. That said, I'll pass the mic to Minister Gould.
Okay, thank you, P.E.I. Hello, everyone. Ça fut un plaisir de vous rencontrer ici à Iqaluit. J'ai eu l'honneur de co-présider la réunion d'aujourd'hui avec la ministre Jameson, ministre de l'Éducation et de la Petite Enfance de l'île du Prince-Édouard. Je tiens à remercier la ministre Cross de son hospitalité et de nous avoir accueillis ici au Nunavut. Marking the collective achievements of the past year is an important process. Today's meeting has allowed us to share our experiences and our insights and to reconfirm our priorities for the year ahead. It has provided us with an opportunity to hear from each other on lessons learned, challenges faced, and progress made in creating a national early learning and childcare system. And we have made important progress over the last 2 years. Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Newfoundland and Labrador, and Nunavut have all achieved the goal of $10 a day licensed childcare 3 years ahead of the national target. Le coût moyen des services de garde réglementés dans les administrations du Québec et du Yukon est déjà de $10 par jour ou moins. De plus, en Alberta, en Colombie-Britannique, au Nouveau-Brunswick, dans les territoires du Nord-Ouest, en Nouvelle-Écosse, en Ontario et à l'île du Prince-Édouard, les frais de garde dans les services agréés ont diminué de 50% ou plus et ces administrations travaillent fort pour offrir des services de garde à $10 par jour d'ici mars 2026. But doing this was never just about reduced childcare fees. Each of us have heard from parents that we need more childcare spaces in each and every community. Our collective goal to create approximately 250,000 new childcare spaces across the country by March 2026 remains in place. And on June 28th, the federal government announced the establishment of the Early Learning and Childcare Infrastructure Fund. This fund will provide an additional $625 million to provinces and territories who will be able to make infrastructure investments that support not-for-profit and public regulated ELCC providers in underserved communities. This would include those in rural and remote regions, high-cost urban neighborhoods and communities with barriers to access, such as racialized, Indigenous, official language minority communities, and children, parents, and employees with disabilities. Les provinces et territoires pourront également appuyer des projets destinés aux exploitants des services éducatifs et de garde à l'enfance qui offrent des horaires sup afin de soutenir les parents qui occupent un emploi atypique. Collectively, we also took an important step to recognize the workforce who are the cornerstone of the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system. A thriving early learning and childcare workforce is critical to ensuring access to quality and inclusive early learning and childcare for families. That is why today we discuss that to strengthen the system, the early learning and childcare workforce needs improved working conditions and competitive compensation that reflects their professional education, experience, and responsibilities. Ministers agreed to develop a strategy for the early learning and childcare workforce that will center on the pillars of recruitment, retention, and recognition. Nous devons attirer et retenir les meilleurs talents en éducation de la petite enfance pour prendre soin de nos enfants et leur faire comprendre que nous valorisons leur travail. Il s'agit d'un investissement dans la santé, le bien-être et la réussite des générations à venir. I have acknowledged many times before that our progress would not be possible without the strong cooperation of all partners. I want to again thank my provincial, territorial, and Indigenous partners for their hard work and steadfast commitment. Et je suis heureuse que notre Forum des ministres continue de se réunir, de collaborer et d'échanger des renseignements et des pratiques exemplaires afin que le système pan-canadien d'apprentissage et de garde des jeunes enfants continue d'évoluer. I would say that this FPT meeting has been a success, and on that note, I will pass the floor over to Minister Jameson from P.E.I. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Gould, and I want to recognize all of my provincial and territorial colleagues here with us today, both in person and online. C'est un plaisir d'être ici en Nunavut et d'avoir eu l'occasion de rencontrer en personne les ministres responsables de l'apprentissage et de la garde de jeunes enfants de partout au pays. Early learning and childcare is vitally important for Canadian families, for our economy, and most importantly, for the next generation of young people. Children deserve to have the very best start in life. In every jurisdiction across this great nation, provincial and territorial governments have worked to establish and support the early learning and childcare sectors. Our systems may look different, but they are each tailored to meet the needs of our communities and our families. It's been 2 years since the first Canada-wide agreement was signed, and every jurisdiction has been working to expand, improve, and support the early years sector. I want to thank the federal government for their investment and partnership on this most important file. Nous avons tous le même objectif, soit d'offrir les systèmes d'apprentissage et de garde des jeunes enfants abordables, accessibles, inclusifs, flexibles et de haute qualité. C'est en collaborant que nous renforcerons le soutien que nous avons pour les enfants et leurs familles. We all share a common goal, to have affordable, accessible, inclusive, flexible, and high-quality early learning and childcare systems. We have built a solid foundation across the nation, and I look forward to strengthening those systems as we work together as ministers. Today's meeting allowed us to share best practices, discuss next steps, and really focus on the workforce needs for early learning and childcare. Early childhood educators are truly the backbone of this sector. As leaders, we recognize that we need to continue to invest in our educators in recruitment, in retention, and in recognition. Today, we agreed on a conceptual frame for a multilateral ECE workforce strategy. Together, we need to elevate early childhood education so it is a career path that more Canadians will choose to take. Our ECEs are shaping the future leaders of tomorrow. Their job is so important, and we are committed to furthering our support for ECEs as we strengthen and grow the sector. It's about recruitment, it's about fair wages, it's about good working conditions, it's about professional development, more opportunities, and being valued. As you can see, this is a topic that I am very passionate about, and I can tell you that all of the ministers here today are passionate about early learning and childcare. Our meeting discussions were extremely positive and beneficial. It has been a pleasure to be able to meet here with my colleagues. Here in Nunavut, Minister Gross and her staff have been incredible. And I am confident that as we move forward, strengthening this sector across the nation, we will find more ways to collaborate and learn from one another. Merci à tous d'être ici aujourd'hui. Nous apprécions votre intérêt concernant le travail que nous faisons pour appuyer l'apprentissage et la garde des jeunes enfants. Thank you all for being here today. We appreciate your interest, and we will do our best to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. So we'll go with questions. We'll start with question on the floor and then on Zoom. If you're on Zoom, please use the raise hand question. And it's going to be one question, one follow-up. Please state your name and office.
Trevor Wright, APT and National News. What exactly does a multilateral ECE collaboration mean? Like, what does it entail?
Yeah, so
The workforce piece is one of the most important pieces to ensure the success of the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system. And every province and territory is dealing with their own unique workforce challenges. And so what we've decided to do today is to work together collaboratively on identifying what those challenges are, but then also identifying what potential solutions are and how we can share those best practices across the country. So we've tasked officials from across the country to do that work so that we can have some consistency across the country while respecting provincial and territorial jurisdiction.
And you mentioned the early learning childhood ELCC needs improved recruitment and retention. Have you guys talked about any, I guess, solutions or ways to increase retention and recruitment, like at the forum this week?
We had really good conversations on all three of those subjects today, and there's some really good work happening across the country. So, for example, in British Columbia and I think in Saskatchewan, they were talking about dual accreditation programs. So for students who are graduating from high school, they can also graduate as an ECE and go directly into the workforce. We talked about, recognizing and valuing the work that the childcare workforce does, and the Yukon made a really excellent presentation in that regard. And we also talked about retention. And so when it comes to retention, we heard really great, interventions from Nova Scotia, from British Columbia about how important it is to make sure that wages and fair compensation is part of that package, and about how successful they've been not only in maintaining the current workforce, but also re-attracting folks who had maybe left the workforce. So there was a lot of really good discussion and sharing of best practices from across the country.
Hello, my name is Maral. I'm with Natalie News, and my questions are directed to Mr. Gould and also Nunavut's Minister Pamela Gross. I was wondering if there are any conversations about supporting ECEs in Nunavut in particular, what those steps look like, if they've been discussed.
Juana, for your question. It's such a pleasure to be hosting here in Nunavut alongside with the co-chairs, Minister Gould and Minister Jameson, to have everybody here in our territory learn from Nunavut firsthand as we're all gathered here in Iqaluit. And we've had a great day so far, and tomorrow we'll be visiting a few of our childcare facilities within the city. And we look forward to sharing that in October 2023, we'll be enhancing our wage scale for our ECE workers. We've also had the opportunity for ECE workers to get training with the Nunavut Arctic College in Iqaluit and Iqaluit, and we look forward to expanding that training to other communities. But the Department of Education does work with our Inuit organizations to ensure that training does happen in conjunction with our partners, and facilitating that training on the ground in our home communities at our facilities. And the ECE workers are getting paid while they do get the enhanced training and work towards the certification that they need to be in the workforce. And we look forward to more opportunities going forward. Thank you.
As a follow-up, I was wondering if there are conversations about supporting ECEs with housing. That has been listed as a consistent issue in Nunavut in terms of recruiting and retaining staff. And I was just wondering if there are any conversations about providing housing to ECs in particular.
Connor, for that is a very interesting point that we have been talking about. It's in discussion, and we hope that there would be future housing for staff. We see that if we are able to recruit and retain ECE employees, that housing be available. However, that's just in the discussion phase, and hopefully we will be able to fruitfully manage that into fruition and have our ECE workers have adequate housing outside of what's offered and available in our communities across the territory.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Desmond Tar, CBC News. I'm wondering, in the places that have enacted the $10 a day daycare, how many daycares have signed on? And this is kind of a two-step question, nationally, but also in Nunavut.
Sorry, nationally and what?
And in Nunavut.
And then in Nunavut. Well, across the country, we've had over 90% of daycare sign on to the Canada-wide early learning and childcare system. It varies by province, but every province and territory has 90% or above in terms of sign-ons. That's a pretty good number. And then in terms of Nunavut, I'll turn it over specifically to Minister Gross.
In terms of Nunavut signage, we have had a great response across the board in the sector for our childcare facilities signing on to the agreement. We have 97% of the childcare facilities sign on. However, with the remaining 3%, we have been working hard to ensure that they do sign on, but they are covered with other agreements and are actually receiving better funding through the Regional Inuit Association in order to do that. They haven't signed on yet, but we look forward to them signing on. Thank you.
And just as a follow-up, what has that done in terms of wait times to get into daycares? How has that alleviated that or helped it or not helped it?
Well, because of reduced fees, there is increased demand. That's something that we certainly anticipated when we created the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Initiative, understanding that more families would then be able to make the decision to put their child in childcare because it now makes economic sense for them to do that. And so, you know, we heard from New Brunswick, for example, that they've seen, was it a 10 or 19% increase in 19% increase in spaces of being filled that had not been filled prior to the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Agreement. And I think we'd see similar things right across the country. But that means that there is increased demand. But that's why every single jurisdiction is working to increase the number of spaces that they have and that they will be able to provide to children and families across their jurisdiction. Collectively, as a country, we have a goal of adding 250,000 spaces by March 31st, 2026. Currently, over 50,000 have been announced, with more in the works. But it's a big endeavor. This is a big project that we're all working on. But I again have to congratulate my provincial and territorial counterparts for the really good work that they've been doing, and knowing that more spaces are being created every single day.
Thank you. We'll now turn online to see if there's any questions. Please raise your hand if you have a question.
Merci beaucoup, P.E.I. So everyone, every media online, thank you for being here with us today. If you have a question, please raise your hand. If you're on a cell phone, you can press *9. Donc, pour les membres des médias, si vous avez des questions, simplement faites la fonction lever la main. Si vous êtes sur un téléphone cellulaire, vous pouvez faire l'étoile 9. C'est à votre tour. It doesn't seem like we have any online question today.
So I see no questions, so that ends the press conference. Thank you very much.
Thank you.